If Batman is not allowed to lose his way under any circumstances, then he can never show us how to come back from straying from the path.
See, the closer I am to someone, the stronger I get. I'll be able to go into your brain, even if you're wide awake.
My brain's not a nice place to be. My brain is not a nice place to be.
It's like 4 a.m. right now, and I could care less. I'm so far from being able to sleep. None of my dreams are located where I sleep. So the search for them cannot be restricted by fatigue. And that's truly the essence of the Batman. The most resourceful man in the world becomes a creature of the night and a vigilante who takes the law into his own hand. What better time to record a monologue about Batman than at 4 a.m.? I often imagine like how much Batman would sweat or like genuinely what his sleep deprivation would do to him. There's no telling. But I was sitting outside earlier being like 2 a.m. and I started to think about my own life and where I saw my experiences represented in modern mythology. Modern mythology, of course, being DC Comics and the amalgamation of pop culture icons that have developed in the past 100 years. But anyway, I thought about where I saw myself represented in Batman's stories and within the Batman myth. Zack Snyder described on Joe Rogan's podcast how the urban jungle needed a myth.
And Batman in the same way. He's an answer to like urban, what is urban? The urban jungle needs a myth, you know? Just like the ancient jungle needed a myth or the ancient, you know, those all... Like in those days, we'd say like, why is the volcano erupting, right? But now we say, because we didn't know, you know, we're just like, I guess it's the gods are mad, you know?
Right.
But now we have, now the problem is like, why do I feel helpless in the face of technology or whatever?
Right.
You know, so we need an answer. We need an additional answer.
The urban jungle being the American city, such as New York, or Philadelphia, or Pittsburgh, or Charlotte, or Atlanta, or Miami. No matter where the urban jungle was located, it needed its own myth. And what better way to represent the worst of American cities than mythologizing them with the corruption and crime that plagues Gotham. I also wanted to use this video to tell you a little bit more about myself. I just spent the past 10 years, I'll be honest, I'm 28 now. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina when I was 18 and stayed until I was 28. I recently moved out to the country where my family lives and just adopted an entirely new lifestyle. One that would free up time to allow me to dedicate it to this channel among other ventures that I wanted to seek. But I just spent the past 10 years in an environment where the Batman myth would be relevant. It was a cultureless city plagued with crime and murder. And sure, there were the good aspects, which I was going to say Carolina Panthers football, but if it was 2015, maybe. But anyway, it was where that myth of the Batman could possibly exist. And so I thought about what I was doing there. what was going on, what was my life coming to. I worked a pretty rigorous job, probably one of the rigorous jobs you could imagine. I was selling, moving, and installing safes in the city of Charlotte. I was the best at it. I was the best safe salesman. I was the best safe installer. Maybe not the best mover. There was another guy that probably had me beat. But regardless, I was the best at what I was doing at the time. And that's just another perfect description of Batman, right? He's always the best at whatever he's doing. And that's one of the things that makes him so admirable. He captures man's desire to use his dark side to fight. To fight against the criminals. To fight against the savages that terrorize American cities with crime and murder and rampage and takeovers. But like I said, I wanted to use this video to tell you a little bit more about myself. After I had graduated high school, I moved out of small town North Carolina to the big city just to get away and disappear into obscurity. I moved to the city to disappear into obscurity and to hide amongst irrelevance. I wanted to go to somewhere new where nobody knew me, nobody knew who I was, and I could just get a sense of starting over. Because where I went to school, where I went to elementary, middle, and high school, and like really grew up at, that's not the same as where I'm from. When I moved out of the city, when I moved out of a real Gotham, I moved back out to the country with my family where I originated. Remember that word, originate. I moved back out here to reconcile with my past. And when I say my past, I mean those memories that you don't really remember from when you were a very young child. I am now where all of those memories developed. And so it's very much a reconciliation with the past. And it's very much a return to where I originated, the origin of my being. But I was moved away from here when I was about 5 years old, for better or for worse. Regardless, it's a return to the origination of my being. I am currently living where I came from. And the reason I was drawn to this place is because I just spent the past 10 years straying from the path. I strayed from all the values that I was raised on. I strayed from any sort of resistance to temptation. I strayed from anything that would compound into a prosperous life. And I did that by chasing these hedonistic pleasures, such as going out to bars and like the safes I mentioned. I would sell, move, and install them in order to afford paying my landlord and my bar tab every week. I was headed down a path that was a race towards the bottom. But luckily I caught myself. I had an awakening, which can be attributed to several things, but there were various awakenings that allowed me to return to the ideal path. And I was finally able to snap out of the trance that hedonistic pleasures, such as alcohol, drugs, promiscuous women, trapped you in. And I was able to snap out of it because I had a perfect Batman myth to represent my experience. And that is not to say we experienced the same things. I'm saying that Batman's experiences encapsulated mine on a greater scale. In the best Batman movie ever made, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition, we start the epic with the Wayne funeral and a glimpse of the Wayne death. Then the rest of the movie is spent watching Bruce Wayne succumb to the absolute powerlessness that the Superman's existence presented. And so, Bruce Wayne felt that he was powerless because Bruce Wayne is just a man. However, the identity of Bruce Wayne, the humanity of Bruce Wayne, is what grounds the Batman and prevents him from becoming a killer, that prevents him from sinking into the abyss. In BVS, we watch Bruce Wayne submit submit to the Batman identity. We watch him surrender himself to the Batman identity, which unleashed the worst aspects about the Batman. He brutalized criminals to such an extreme level, which is not out of the ordinary. Batman continues down the darkest path possible with this justification of the terror of the Superman, of the potential threat that the Superman presents, as an excuse and as a justification to abandon his own imposed restrictions, which is the type of behavior in the Batman that symbolizes my own behavior of sacrificing my own identity to the hedonistic pleasures of living in a city that Gotham mythologizes. Superman was able to quell Batman's rage because he was able to make him recognize the error of his ways. Superman was able to make Batman return to the origination of his being. Superman intentionally and specifically said,
"You're letting him kill Martha,"
to trigger Batman's origination. Suddenly, flashbacks swarm Bruce Wayne's mind. Those flashbacks swarmed his mind and he returned to the origination of his being, which corrected him from straying down the worst possible path. The worst possible path of Batman becoming a killer and abusing his exponential power over the common man is equivalent to a man like you or me falling to the temptations of hedonistic pleasure. However, if we are to put our faith in the Savior of our world, the definitive Batman of the modern era serves as an example to man to always honor his own imposed restrictions and to never stray from the hero path. Before we go, I would like to remind you that none of this is easy. It's not easy to resist temptation. It's not easy to have an unwavering moral code. If someone as mentally tough as the Batman can stray from the path, then it will be quite easy for me or for you to do. However, remember I told you earlier in this video that I sold safes for a living before I moved back to where I originated. And so I was the best at it because I've always refused to sell a product that I don't believe in. But I believed in that product. And when you believe in yourself, which is your own product, then it will be easier to stay the hero path. However, it always helps to have reminders. It always helps to surround yourself with the iconography necessary to keep you on the hero path. My friends over at Titanforge can help you with that. Surround yourself with the necessary imagery needed to motivate the hero that lies within you. So check them out. They make pristine metal posters that are everlasting in the message the art portrays and the quality of the product. Use my code HERO for 5% off of your first icon. Thank you and good night.